Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. This is Julian Morales, the president-elect of the Galveston, Clear Lake Galveston PMI chapter. I want to welcome all of you coming in. I wanted to go ahead and introduce our current board. Our chapter president is Albert Collier, AJ. Our VP of administration is Michael Henry. Our VP of Communications is Daniel De La Garza. Thomas Nutt Brown is our VP of Membership, and Scott Field is also our programs VP. So, Scott, got a few good things to say?
Sure. I'm excited that this is now our second virtual chapter meeting, and we're still investigating platforms for having PMI CLG actually own the capability. And so kudos to Frank for last month's presentation, and very much appreciate his assistance in setting up this event, this venue. And so we're looking for speakers for the August and September timeframes, and we're going to find some other suitable dynamic speakers for relevant topics that are near and dear to everybody's heart. So stay tuned and monitor your emails for communications for upcoming programs.
Yes, our next meeting will be next month, August, I believe, 23rd, if I'm correct.
That's right. August the 27th. August 27th, Julie.
Oh, I'm sorry, August 27th, you're correct.
Okay, AJ Collier has joined. If you want to introduce AJ again.
Yes, AJ Collier is our founder and the current president of the chapter. AJ, why don't you say a few words for us?
Okay, Julian, apparently AJ's line is open, but he might be having an issue. So you might want to continue on with the agenda items, and when we get AJ back online, we'll move forward, okay?
Okay, we're still a growing chapter here in the Galveston Clear Lake chapter. Our membership is around 450. It's still growing. We include Beaumont, Port Arthur area, and also down to Lake Jackson and possibly even to Corpus Christi. Our chapter activities at the current, we'll have elections coming up pretty soon, so you'll be seeing some, the members of the chapter will be seeing some information coming up. Scott just talked to you about upcoming programs. As Scott mentioned also, PMI is looking to have more virtual training and meetings. So they're also sending a bunch of resources out that for the membership. This include projectmanagement.com, which has a lot of webinars on it too. So if you're a member of PMI, you can use the same credentials to log into project management. The other big bullet point is the PMP exam has changed from it was going to be this July.
I'm not getting sound. I'm not getting sound.
Go ahead, AJ.
Okay, Julian, go ahead and continue. I'll work with AJ's issue. Continue with your comments.
Okay, so the PMP has moved out to January 1st. There's also a registered education provider changes that are also in the in the loop with PMI. So there's going to be some changes there. Our plans for one of the plans for our upcoming program is to have workshops that'll last from 2 to 3 hours, and the appropriate PDUs associated with that. For that, we'll be charging, but it'll be a nominal price. It'll be in the evening from 6 to 9. So be on the lookout, 6 to 9 Central Standard Time. So be on the lookout for that. But that, probably our first one won't probably be till either late August or early September. But again, just like the meetings, we'll be sending that information out. And we will focus on the three areas, leadership, technical, and strategic business, with the focus being on leadership and strategic business as the three categories that the PMI is wants all the PMPs to get involved with. And then here, and I'm kind of ahead of myself, but here at 6:20, we'll go ahead and entertain questions and answers, questions from the chapter and PMI via chat. So if you have any questions at all, you can enter into the chat box. And I see that Thomas Nutbrown is on. Thomas, can you hear me? Can you unmute him, Frank?
Yeah, Thomas is now a panelist. So Thomas, go ahead.
Are you sure you want me to unmute?
Yeah, go ahead. You're online. Go ahead. You have a large audience waiting, so provide information to your audience that's waiting.
Okay, we'll just follow up the membership statistics a little bit. As Julie mentioned, about 450 members. Actually, as of today, we are at exactly 470 members, of which 289 are PMPs. So I'm hoping many of the folks on the phone right now are PMPs and earning a PDU. And if you're not PMP, maybe you're working towards the exam, and the information about the exam changes may be interesting to you, or training opportunities may be interesting to you. Here in the month of July already, there's still a week to go, but we have 7 new members here in the month of July, and we have 30 existing members who have already renewed here this month. And just to give you an impression about our membership levels, we're still considered a small chapter, heading towards medium size, but with 470 members today, that's 3 more than we started the year. January 1st, we had 467 members, but it's about 30 more than what we started the year 2019. 2018, we started with 406, so we're about 65 more than where we were at the beginning of 2018. And I can tell you we're 50% higher than when I came on the board in 2013. We were around 320 members. So a lot of great growth, and I think that has a lot to do with the word of mouth from members. And I just always want to put the offer out there. If you have a friend or colleague or any type of contact you think would benefit from being a member of the chapter, please get yourself and them in contact with me, and I can. We have some opportunities to maybe help them join the chapter for a short period of time at a reduced price, or maybe no price. So send them my way. I'll be quiet. You can remute me now.
Okay, we had a question come up from Brian Bice, and I think this would be directed to Julian, or if you have a VP of programs or education, or maybe PMP. The question is, the changes to the PMP exam, including agile principles, will now be on January 1st. Which version of the PMBOK will this be?
I believe it's still version 6.
Yes, it is still version 6. The exam has changed to become, amongst other things, 50% agile as of January 1st. But the PMBOK guide, it will still be based on the 6th edition PMBOK. The 7th edition has not been released yet.
I think they have a date for it. This is Kevin. I'll check before I get started, and I'll answer that question when I come back.
If anyone still has questions on about the chapter or PMI, please enter them into the chat box. That's a good question. Thank you. And Brian Bice is actually on our board.
Okay. All right. You can go ahead and continue with your business agenda items, and we'll get our speaker going on time at 6:30. There are, right at the moment, 46 people attending the session so far. So go ahead and continue with any chapter business, and then we'll move forward.
Were you able to get AJ back online?
AJ is still having some trouble with his audio, and I'm working with him offline on that.
Okay. So like I mentioned previously, our plan is to have workshops towards the end of the third and fourth quarter of this year. But be aware that, you know, January 1st has been mentioned before of 2021 is when the PMP exam changes, and it'll be based on the new PMBOK, which would be revision 7. The current PMP, if you can get in, will be based on 6. So that exam is actually going to be virtual. So if you're able to get, you should be able to get a seat if you're ready to take that PMP exam.
Okay, there is one bit of information that I just heard recently. I can't validate it, but I think it's true. And that is that PMI introduced the online PMP exam about a month or so ago, but the number, the slots available from now through the end of the year have been taken up. So that's going to present a challenge for people who are interested in taking the online exam between now and the end of the year. That's something we'll have to verify, but I'm pretty sure that that's accurate.
Yeah, I heard that too, Frank, in my president's meetings that we have on a monthly basis. Excuse me, they're actually working to increase the virtual attendance for people that want to take the PMP exam before the end of the year online.
Okay, so right at the moment, I believe we have all of your board members as panelists. And if you want to introduce anyone to make an update, you can go ahead and do that.
Let me go ahead and introduce Michael Henry. He's our VP of Administration.
Hey, everybody. Glad you could join us today. I'm working on pulling the attendance. I didn't have a big, long speech prepared, Julian.
No, that's okay. But you'll be gathering the information for the to claim the PDUs for the chapter attendees, right?
Yes, and those that are chapter members, I'll get your PDUs submitted for you the same way we always do.
And if you're not a chapter member, Michael Henry, are they going to have to claim their own PDU?
Yeah, if I don't have their PMI number and all that, then they'll have to go in and claim their own PDU. I will set up the course in the PMI system, and so it should be easy to find.
Oh, this is Tom. I got to say, if they're not a chapter member, reach out and let's become one.
Yeah, join the chapter. I'll do it for you.
Okay, just as an FYI to everyone that is online, we have an attendance register for everyone that is attending the session, and the PMI CLG can check the attendance and validate the PDUs for anyone that is a PMP to make those arrangements for the PDU if you are a PMI member and I believe a member of the chapter. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, and normally our meetings are held at the restaurant Las Haciendas here in Webster, Texas. But unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we've gone virtual, as many other, all the chapters within PMI. Everything is. We're going to have a leadership meeting later this year in Seattle. That has been canceled, and it will be rescheduled. But at this time, everyone that wants to go to a meeting, regardless of where it's at, they can go to that chapter and see what they have going on and attend one of their meetings. They're more than happy to on and get a PDU.
Okay, we have a couple of inquiries for the chapter, Julian, and you'll have to direct this to the right people. But we have a person, Harshala Patel, who is asked saying, I am more interested in networking with chapter members. How to go ahead with this? Do you have any suggestions on how to network with other chapter members, considering that all meetings, for at least for the foreseeable future, are virtual?
The one way you can do that, at least reach out to the membership And also, you can email, you can ask any of the attendees if they'll give you their email address, and you can certainly engage them accordingly.
Julian, can I address that?
Yes, sir.
We will be looking at, there are virtual networking platforms that the chapter has looked into, but we don't have it, how should I put it? We don't have it mature enough, but there are some opportunities to do virtual networking. And I've experienced that with other organizations. And if we can put our ducks in a row and get some volunteers to help us, we can do networking events very effectively virtually.
But I would refer the membership over to our website at PMICOG.org, and there's always a lot of information there. And of course, the board email address is on there.
Yeah, we have a couple of other items. We have a person, Javier Alanis, who says he wants to share that he just passed the CAPM and is looking forward to the PMP. He says he has a lot of certifications on NCCER and some on P6. I am looking for work. If you know anybody hiring, please let me know. So this is another good opportunity for the chapter to provide support to membership by providing information about potential job opportunities. And that was addressed by Scott Field, who said he would do some checking about job offers. Anybody want to add anything more to that?
So for people who don't know what the NCCER is, that is that's a certifying body of construction professionals, typically within the crafts, within civil, pipe, structural steel, rigging, operators, things like that. So if you've got some lines on some construction jobs, particularly with looks like scheduling here, and reach out to Javier, let me know. And this is Scott Field. So type a note to me with some sort of indication that you might have a lead on a job.
Well, right now at 6:20, we got about 5 more minutes of any questions you might have about the chapter of PMI. It's a very good question. We appreciate those very much.
Julian, there's another question that that Pete Hottenstein mentions. He's from West Texas, and he's wondering if we're going to be able to continue the webinars after the COVID pandemic sort of settles down. We go back to regular meetings, in-person meetings. So
yes, our plan is to still do virtual meetings. We'll set up our camera in our normal meeting place and have those as webinars. So yes, the intention is to do that still. For those members or whoever is interested in joining online.
Okay, a few more questions, Julian, before we move on. One question is, I'm in West Texas. Will you continue virtual meetings after the coronavirus? And that's from Pete Hottenstein.
Yeah, they just answered that question. And I think Pete is ready to sign up and be a member. There you go. You got a new one.
But now would be a good time if everyone wants to take a quick break. At 6:25, I'll introduce our speaker for this evening. So if you keep those questions coming, and we'll try to answer them. If we can't answer them, we'll get that answered for you.
I see your question, Erica. We started at 6, and that's the chapter meeting. The presentation will begin at 6:30.
Well, I was going to say something, but I keep getting muted. I don't know what's going on.
Go ahead. We can hear you loud and clear, AJ.
Well, every time I go to say something, it goes to mute. Now,
I sent a letter out the other day about chapter elections. Did everybody get one of them that's a board member and a chapter member?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. There were going to be a follow-up. I want to make sure people know that they need to get with me so I can start doing this. And if you are anywhere in the world, you can be a director on our board, as other people on this call can phone call, whatever, can attest to. So read that. If you would like something, go to the website and I can send chapter members the same letter. So that's all I want to say about that. So go for it. Take your break.
Okay, so this is going to be a very short break in case anybody needs to grab a refreshment or make a quick phone call or conduct any other business. In roughly 3 minutes, we will turn it back over to Julian, who will introduce our speaker for this evening. Right at the moment, if you are still online here, if you haven't taken a break, if you have any other questions, you can post them in the chat, or you can send a question, and we'll take a few more minutes to answer any questions you may have about the PMP exam, about even what's going to happen on this session this evening. Maybe you have an upfront question that you would like to pose to Kevin before he gets started. I'm sure many of you are interested in what Discipline Agile is. It should be an interesting presentation for everyone to get more updated info about this progression of Agile as it moves forward. If there are any other questions, post them now. Is a good opportunity just to do a quick informal chat before the actual presentation begins. And this would also be an opportunity for the board members. If you have any other information that you might think is useful to share, now would be a time to do so.
I can give the group an update on the question about which PMBOK version. I am looking at a web page from Mike DePrisco, who's the Vice President for Global Experience and Solutions with PMI, on a June 30th, so almost a month ago. Here's, and I quote, "The new edition of the PMBOK is due out before the end of the year." Now, that's going to make it interesting because if the test changes on January 1st, I have to believe that PMI will use PMBOK 6 for at least 6 months because of the training lag, and then they'll switch it over to 7 sometime in 2021. That's just based on my experience with PMI and every version of PMBOK past PMBOK 2, which is when I started.
I think you're about right, Kevin. Usually the exam changes approximately 6 months after the new edition of the PMBOK has been released. But you know, because of all the issues going on with the virtual programs and PMI being closed as an organization, the building in Pennsylvania is closed, that it's likely to go out until 2021. We'll just have to wait for updates on that. Okay, let's see. What happens to the 49 processes? Do we just forget those, like the 5 process groups? Kathy is asking that question. Unfortunately, very few people have seen the draft or the exposure draft of the new PMBOK, but it is drastically different. And from what I have heard from people who are working on it, the 49 sub-processes and the 5 process groups are all being replaced, and it will be a much less dense document. And the current PMBOK is roughly 750 pages. We can expect that the new PMBOK will be far less than that. It will be much more streamlined, but we don't have a lot of information. They haven't really released a lot yet, so we'll have to wait and see. I don't know that we would want to just give up or forget about the 49 processes or the 5 process groups, but we'll just have to wait and see how PMI is going to transition out of that into this new version, which, like I said, will be drastically different.
I think Kevin said earlier that the new PMBOK will be 50% geared towards agile. So the talk tonight is very much in tune to that.
Well, the new exam will be 50% agile. The new PMBOK, we have to see exactly what's going to be in it. So I wouldn't speculate. It is going to change. There are multiple changes that are in place. And certainly agile is in the future, and PMI has bought into agile is as a key factor in the evolution of project management. So it really behooves every person that is a PMP or aspiring PMP to pay attention to the changes in the evolution of agile.
Well, let me ask you this question. What is the best way to study agile if you are not an agile person? Kevin or anybody know that kind of thing? Is there something you can read or study or do something with before the PMBOK comes out?
There is a document called the Agile Practice that is available from PMI, and it's a pretty easy read as far as understanding the principles, and it goes through this discipline agile concept, and it's a whole lot more applicable to other processes and industries than just software. So so I encourage you to be able to read it. I think it was about $20 or so, but it's definitely worth it.
The 7th edition of the new PMBOK, you can go to projectmanagement.com and look at the critical path blog that talks about the edition. They should have released their plan had been to release the draft of the PMBOK for the first quarter of 2020, but that doesn't happen. I don't know what the new date is on that now.
Okay, we're at 6:29 here. We're going to have to move forward, and we'll address those questions again later. There are some comments about it, distinguishing the new credential. Agile Alliance is a great resource. Sam Albury says LinkedIn training. Tina Beres says agilealliance.com. Also pmi.org/discipline agile. We'll post that in the chat. And is the PMP ACP still a valid, desirable certification? Kevin, maybe you can address that during the presentation. At this point in time, Julian, if you take a minute to introduce our presenter. And Kevin, if you would now switch over to share your screen.
Okay, this evening our speaker is Kevin Martin. He's a USAA director. He does hold the PMI ACP certification and is also a PMP. He's been with the PMI since 1994. He is past president of Alamo chapter, which is in San Antonio, Texas. He is the PMI Clear Lake Galveston Distributed Agile Champion since 2019. He also teaches at the UTSA as part of the adjunct facility. His expertise is in project management, agile leadership, database design and management, and he has 20+ years of agile experience. So with that, Kevin, it's yours.
Okay, Kevin, so you're muted at this point. If you can unmute and share your screen.
Yeah, I'm trying. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're good on the audio. Just
okay,
need you to
my
share your
workstation locked up. Let me see if I can't get this going. I got it working too hard. How we doing there? Am I the presenter yet?
You are an organizer, so you should be able to share your screen.
All right, I see it. I had to change it. I thought you had already done that. Let me go. Here we go. Let's see how it works. Do you see me yet?
Yes.
We see your screen.
Okay, let me get it back up and get it into presentation mode. All right, how are we cooking?
We're ready to roll.
Got way too much things going on here. Little computer's hurting. All right, well, thank you, Julian, and thank you to the whole board of PMI CLG. I've been proud to be a member for over a year, almost 2 years in October. And I'm really happy to talk to you tonight about Discipline Agile. And I shortened it to TADA because when we finish, it'll be TADA, and then there'll be a long learning journey associated with it. I answered one question, which is, when do I think the test is going to change? The test is going to be Agile January 1st. The PMBOK is going to change at the end of the year, no date specifically, but I have seen a preview copy of it, and I believe it'll change. The test will change again mid-year to reflect that. I'll give you some resources where you can learn more about it, but if you go to recertify as a PMP, your recertification will require you to have some Agile experience in it, and they'll probably tell us more about that as well. They haven't exposed what that mixture is going to look like. So it's dynamic and it's changing. Stay with it and use me as your DA champion and the board to help you. All right, let's get going. Let's talk Discipline Agile. Okay, let's go. Where am I going? Here we go. All right, so let's get started with some definitions. On the right-hand side, you see a pillar there. That's a PMI branding. That's called determination. And here's my quote to you. Strategy without execution is a dream. And execution without strategy is an endless nightmare. And I can tell you, having done enough Agile transformations over 20 years, it sometimes winds up as a nightmare. My intent is to help you navigate that. And it's going to be a journey, and you're going to learn, and you're never going to quit learning. So let's talk about what happened in March. How many people were impacted by what happened with COVID in March? Let me tell you, it impacted everybody around the world. There were 3 responses that I saw. Some people said, no problem, business as usual. And that was usually the people who had a digital presence. They were already doing virtual everything. Let's take Amazon. I don't think they missed a beat. They were selling more stuff because people were stuck at home. Then there was a response from the middle group, which said, no way, we are dead in the water. Those are the people that are service oriented, people like restaurants, bars, not much ability to do that service virtually, although I wish they could, but it might open some new ideas. But that's the middle ground, and that hurt a lot of people and put some people out of business permanently, potentially. And here's the third group, and it was, okay, what can we do? And I want you to look at the bottom of the screen there. There's a reference I want you to look at, and that's a Galveston restaurant called The Spot. And in April, this restaurant laid off 200 and something people. And in May, he brought some of those people back, and he changed his business model. And I'm not going to tell you unless we have time at the end, but his May revenue, he invested $665,000, and that gamble paid off. It was the biggest month that restaurant had since opening in October of 1980. That's 40 years of business. And in May, at the height of the pandemic, he made more money in 1 month. And if you go read the Houston Chronicle article, you'll find out how he did it and how he changed. And he was one of those people at the bottom that said, okay, it's not going to go back like it was, but what can we do? All right, so I'm here tonight. I hopefully will inform you, inspire you, and encourage you to do something different after tonight in your profession, in your career, in your family. The world's going to be different, and it depends on how we react. And I hope to teach you using discipline agile, how that might be accomplished. So as I thought through, why are you here? Well, maybe you want to know about agile. Maybe, as some of the questions have already started, what is the PMI strategy here? I'll talk about that in my presentation, but they are evolving as well. And if you stay on top of the news from PMI, it's hard to keep up with how many ways they're evolving. Hopefully you're here because you want to be a better professional. And if you want to be a better professional, you join a group like this that brings professional speakers on topics you might be interested in, and they open your eyes, and they hopefully network with you and answer questions and are available afterwards, and they invest in your future and you learn from each other. And it really is all about collaboration. There's too much to learn and too much to know for anybody to do it alone. And then I hope you will learn to develop your future. And the development of your future is really my intent. My roadmap of the future will not work for you. My question is, how can I help you build a roadmap for yourself? So we'll try to answer some of that tonight. So here are the session objectives. By the way, you guys are going to get these slides. That always comes up. We're going to make these slides available. I've already given a PDF to the board, and they will be posting it on the website. I also believe it's being recorded. So let's learn about the DA mindset and the toolkit that I think is the key to being successful. Understand what that secret sauce, why is DA different? There's so many, I quit counting on how many different hybrid versions of agile frameworks and methodologies. There's literally, I quit counting at 100. But you want to create, all of them are intended to create a learning organization of team and individuals to address issues that you don't even know you are going to have yet. And we'll talk about that during the presentation. I believe I have until 7:45, and we'll see how to fill it up. You guys are welcome to ask questions along the way, and my friend Frank Salatis is going to help me. So just get your questions ready, and I'll stop at each section. So bring your questions, and we'll manage the time. I'm a professional presenter, and I know how to do that. So bring it, and then we'll play it by ear. We're going to be very agile in how we administrate this. And then the last one is understand the values and the practices that define your own way of working and your teams and your company and your organization and whatever it is. The nice thing about DA, you're going to see a lot of ability to make choices along the way. And that's what I believe makes DA different. And I believe that's why PMI bought them. And so let's continue on. All right. That's what we're going to do tonight. I hope I meet your expectations. We'll check it along the way. All right, so there's me. I'm not on a webinar cam, and that's because I want to save bandwidth. So let me tell you just a little bit. I think Julian did a great job, so we'll go fast. I joined the PMI in 1994. I became the DA champion in 2019. There's my PMI number. There's my PMP number. There was only 5,497 in the world when I joined. And then I became the CDAP in 2019. I was part of the pilot. I was part of the pilot for the ACP, one of the first 500 in the world, and also a pilot for the CADP, because I'm not scared. Let me just tell you that. I read fast. When I took the ACP, it's 3,888 pages, and the CDAP is, I believe, 12 pounds of books. And we'll talk about some of those books. So I'm not afraid of reading, and I'm not afraid of taking tests, and so I always try to be a guinea pig and give them feedback, which I did in December in Las Vegas this year, and then got certified in January. All right, yeah, I was the chapter president. Yeah, I've been the DA champion. I'm also an author and an international speaker and facilitator. I enjoy doing that and sharing what I know with as many people as I possibly can. I'm also teach at the University of Texas at San Antonio, where I teach project management, agile leadership, and database design and management. And I do have over 20 years of agile experience, and you might say, how is that possible? Because the manifesto has only been out right at 20 years. In fact, yeah, right at 20 years. That's because I was doing techniques. They were never known as agile, but I've been doing them since about the late 70s. And I can show you that agile really started, as far as I can tell, in 1932. I can trace agile roots all the way back to 32. It was never called Agile, though, until they wrote the manifesto in 2001. So that's my name. That's my alphabet soup. I do work at USA as a director and a senior experience owner, and I'm still an Agile coach, and I'm still a project management professional. I was the lead for about 15 years, still answer questions on traditional project management because we still do about everything that you can do. So let's get going. Here's a definition for you, and this is how I define agility. Agility is two things. It's a noun. It is the ability to move quickly and easily, and the ability to think and understand, and it's both. You can be nimble and quick physically and think slow, and you're still going to get run over like that flattened squirrel we've all seen. If you hesitate, your competitors are going to beat you. So why do you think this might be the case, and what evidence can I share with you so that you might come to a similar conclusion? VUCA. VUCA is a word that came out in the late 80s from the Army War College, and it certainly has to do with the dangerous and volatile environments in war, and it stands for volatility, and that is the speed of change, the uncertainty associated with something, and that is the extent that we can confidently predict the future. That is changing dramatically because the world is becoming more and more ambiguous. And then complexity, the number of factors that we can take into account, their variety and the relationship between them. And if you've ever seen a network diagram for either a system or just take a team of 100, if you guys are PMPs, you guys know the communications formula. It's daunting when you put 100 people and then expect that complexity not to impact your ability to communicate. And then ambiguity, and that is the lack of clarity about how you might interpret what you're observing. Okay, so we're all getting hit with all of these things at the same time. And if you're a visual learner, I've created a slide that looks like this. Low volatility is slow curves. That's what we used to have in the 70s and the 80s. There was long-term planning. Strategic plans were, when I worked for EDS in the 70s, EDS had a 5, a 3, and a 1-year strategic plan. And they got more clarity as they got closer. High volatility, which is what we're doing now, I'm seeing strategic plans be 90 days old. And in 90 days, it could change. And that's all dependent on the industry that you're in the competitive nature of that industry, in how many people are in the marketplace or might join the marketplace. Low certainty is again very clear. You can see it's a straight line from here to there. If you put here to there on that line, you can see how to get from here to there. Whereas uncertainty is, we know where we are, we don't know where exactly we're going to wind up, and that's probably the best definition. So somewhere in that what I call that alligator mouth is where you're going to wind up, but you have no idea where you're going to wind up, but it's pretty confident that you'll wind up between those two lines. Low complexity, and that goes back to how many things you have to keep in mind. Think of a network diagram. If I have 2 nodes, not too hard. High complexity, look at all those diamonds and squares. Those you might think of as layers of services, or maybe in a value chain, the people that have to hand off. The higher complexity, the more opportunity there is for failure, for lack of quality, and the more complexity you have in a system, the more probability you have for failure. And then the last one is ambiguity, and that is how clearly you see things. On the right, you see the same square, but it's pretty foggy, and the farther out it is, the foggier. I'm severely myopic, which means I've worn glasses since I was about 6 years old. And with a couple of more powers, I think I could get a white cane. That's what it looks like when I wake up in the morning, when I look at the alarm clock. High ambiguity until I put my glasses on and see. And that's a ambiguity corrector for me are my glasses. So on the right, I'd like to think about, what are you thinking about what I'm talking about? I'd love for you to, maybe put some questions up or maybe some comments, and I'll get with Frank here in just a second. We'll get some of them out so that you guys can participate, because that helps me craft the message that I'm leaving for you. So that's Rodin's thinker. Rodin was a French sculptor. He did that sculpture in 1880. And so while Frank is assembling maybe some questions for me, let me go to a fun fact. So Rodin's Thinker on the left, same picture, but it started in 1880 with a concept he was going to put together. That's a 27-foot bronze. It's doors that were going to enter into a Paris museum. He worked on it for 37 years and never finished it, and he died in 1917. But I want you to see something. If you look at that picture on the right at the top, over the doors, you can see Rodin's Thinker in that art. So he started with the gates of hell, and he had so much passion around the Thinker that he brought it out and made a statue. Now he created, between 1880 and 1917, he created 10 versions of Rodin's statue, and you can see them all over the world. There's one in Philadelphia that I saw last October. There's also a copy of the Gates of Hell. But after he died, he willed the design for Rodin's Thinker to the French government, and the French government created somewhere in the neighborhood of another 20. The number is not exact. So there are 30 copies of Rodin's Thinker, of which he only saw 10, and other people created 10 more. So interesting fun fact, Rodin's Thinker was around Dante's allegory. Everything on that Gates of Hell is from Dante's allegory, and that's a fun fact just to break it up. Frank, you got anything for me on questions?
Well, we have a couple of things that you mentioned before, but maybe we can get more information on. Here's one it's not a question, it's sort of like an inquiry though. Agile began in Japanese manufacturing, if memory serves, and that came from Sam Albury. What do you know about Japanese manufacturing and Agile?
I do. That comes from Lean. That's the Toyota production system. That was back in the 70s. We can trace it back, and I can do another presentation on the roots of Agile. Let me tell you what I do know. When Deming, who was an American, went to the car companies before the 40s, he basically had a lean manufacturing, trying to get them to be more efficient. They told him, no thanks, we build cars and we know how to build them. When the war ended in Japan in 45, he went over there and taught the Japanese how to build cars efficiently, and they came back and kicked Americans' butt in the 70s. Took them 30 years, and that's what you know today and is published as the Toyota production system. And if you were to come to San Antonio, I would take you to the Toyota plant, and you could experience it firsthand. There's no charge, and they want you to see what they do because they want more people to know the Toyota production system. So yeah, it was Japanese, but it started in America, and I've chased it back to 32. So great point. Thanks for asking.
Just one more thing. This is from Ruth Ann Bodenbach, and it's something that you mentioned earlier, but the question was, when did you say recertification will include showing competency in Agile?
That's a great question. I haven't seen that, and thanks, Ruth Ann. I know Ruth Ann. Thanks for joining us tonight. I got a bunch of friends on here. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your day. I hope I give you something worthwhile. Recertification always follows the PMBOK, then the exam, and then recertification. I would look for something, and maybe we can get Julian or AJ to ask on the next president's call, and then maybe we can put out something in a chapter flyer. So I encourage you to be a member. But you know me, Ruth Ann, if you want that question, as soon as I find out, I'll remember it came from you, and I'll let you know.
Okay, that's it for now in questions, so you can move on.
Thank you, sir. All right, I got a question. If you don't, let's take a poll question. I need to know who I'm talking to and where you are mentally. So Frank, can you bring up that poll question for me?
Okay, bringing it up.
And if you can, please answer A, B, C, or D, and then Frank will tell us how we fare. We'll give you about 30 seconds.
Okay, right now, the voting says that 38% are just getting started. 29% say I have done Agile, but want to get some tips. 27% say I've used Scrum, Kanban, Safe, and 7% say I've learned DA and here for advanced ideas.
Awesome. Glad to hear we have some DA people out there. That's super. Yeah, so most people are just getting started. We got about what, 56% right down the middle. Done some Agile, done some Scrum, done some Kanban, done some Lean, done some Safe, done some Less, done some every hybrid you can think of. So that's good. I'm going to tell you how DA is going to help every single person on this call, no matter where you are. All right, here we go. Thanks for that, Frank, and thank you all for participating. Here's what Harvard Review has to say. It is a business fact that Agile is a global movement, and it's not only a software development fad. So many people thought, yeah, it's all those IT people. Well, Harvard Business Review, and I read it, it was monthly, now it's quarterly. Agile at Scale right there, how to create and a truly flexible organization. Every month now, Harvard Business Review has some article on Agile. And the first time I saw it, I've been reading HBR probably since about 2006. They've talked about Agile HR. They've talked about how to create an innovation company, but it's all been rooted in how to do what we talked about, and that is meet this VUCA world. And more people are jumping on. And I don't want you to be left behind, and I want you to be at the forefront, and that's why I'm here tonight. So it is a business fact. You can stick your head in the ground, but your competitors are going to catch you, and your certifications are going to be less valuable as we move forward. So let's get right to it. So PMI acquired Discipline Agile in August of 2019. In October, I went to Philadelphia. That's me, that's Scott Ambler, and that's Al Shalloway on the right. I've known both of those guys since 2006. I went to Vegas and saw DAD, which was the first increment of Discipline Agile. I'll show it to you on the slide a little later. Discipline Agile Delivery was created by Mark Ambler when he worked for IBM. And I saw him. In fact, he came to USAA and spoke. And we really hadn't touched base until 2010, so 4 years later, when he was out. And so it is designed to help organizations and individuals holistically navigate Agile. And that's something different. There are 6 certification levels, and if you stick around to the end, I'll tell you how to do it. It is about the application of a lot of Agile principles, and you're going to see that in the foundation work. And you're going to understand how to best identify an approach to meet your way of working, your wow. Now, Al Shalloway was always around since 2001 that I first met Al. He was working on more lean, more process engineering. And he had a concept in a company called Net Objectives, and PMI bought him as well. Both of those guys now are VPs for PMI and are helping with this Discipline Agile. That's a picture of me in October. I saw them both again in December. Frank was right across the hall teaching a class when I was out there with Al and with Scott learning Discipline Agile. So you find yourself running into the same people when you're out pushing the envelope. All right, so here's the question. You're going to get these slides, but let me tell you what DA promises to do. It takes the mystery out of those who are doing software development. It's complex and it's difficult. It speeds up any Agile transformation, and we'll talk about how it does it. It is context sensitive so that you can make process choices. Number 11, we'll talk about that, I think is the real secret sauce. It enables Scrum. It extends and enables Scrum to perform better. It provides a foundation to enhance SAFe. It provides a foundation to scale any methodology tactically, and I'll show you how it does that. And it enables an enterprise class DevOps, which DevOps, for those of you that are in IT, you'll understand, but there are services, and I'll point out the DevOps layer. And it implements customer-focused value streams. It really doesn't matter what anybody does if your customer at the very end isn't happy. And I don't care if it's an internal customer or an external customer. People have got to be happy when you deliver and you create a learning environment. Your customers become delighted. And that's something that started with AT&T. What I've seen with DA is it has the ability to do it. And it's because it's not prescriptive, it allows you to adapt and adjust and solves problems as you encounter them. It is enterprise ready. I'm going to show you what's called the DA Enterprise, and it's a complex chart, but it will explain to you why everything comes together. It involves empirically, and empirically is it evolves based on fact, not feelings. It evolves based on facts that you consume as you learn, and then you make another decision, and then you learn and you make another decision, and then you address pain points until they all begin to go away. DA is pragmatic, it's not purist. That's the one that I liked the best the first time I saw it, is it allows you to say, what's your problem? And then let's fix them one at a time, and I'll show you how it does that in the promises that it makes. And then overall, if you do it and you start practicing, it increases your probability of success in any agile transformation. And it does it through a concept of guided continuous improvement. And the guidance comes from the toolkit, which I'm going to teach you tonight. All right. This is 7 o'clock. Let me stop right there. Another opportunity to ask questions about what I just said before we get into the toolkit. And it is 7 o'clock. We're doing great on time.
Hey, Kevin, I got a couple of things going on here.
Okay.
Let me just read off a couple of statements and you can respond.
Yeah.
Nanette Patton said, there are 12 guiding principles. The document also emphasizes the value delivery system.
Yeah.
So she's making a statement there. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, Nanette, yeah, thanks, Nanette. Yeah, she's right. There is a value system. I don't have time to go into it tonight, but I will show you some of the principles. The 12 guiding principles are in the book called WOW. You're going to get a chance to get that. If you're a PMI member, you're going to get a chance at the end to get a free copy. So stick around. Thanks,
okay,
Nanette.
we have John Leonard making a statement. This is John Leonard, PMP DA champ in PMI North Carolina chapter Raleigh. I am Kevin's classmate at December 2019 PMI Las Vegas pilot training. Texas A&M guys, so great to be back in CLG virtually from North Carolina tonight.
That's awesome, John. Yeah, it's good to see you. Yeah, John and I had a good time. John's up there in North Carolina trying to do the same thing I'm doing. So I invited him to say, hey, come listen to what I talk about, and if I can help you, let's collaborate. So thanks for coming, John. Thanks for spending time, buddy. Welcome back to Texas virtually, man.
We got a real question here from Kim Bushin, who said, she's quoting you, takes the mystery out of agile software development.
Right.
Is DA applicable for physical products and services?
Absolutely. Yeah. So DA, most applications of any agile methodology, that goes back to this myth. It's all about software. I got people running agile and DA in churches. I got a school that's running it. We're talking a public education school are teaching their teachers how to do this. And that's because it's common sense. You're going to see how easy it is. And it's not related to IT anything. It's related to people working together. I hope people like grocery stores and bars get this information and start finding how they can pivot and come back, because I don't think we're going back to what used to be. And I hope I can help all of those industries and all of you make this pivot successfully and start practicing, and then challenge me to help you deploy successfully. So yeah, that's Kim Buxton. She's my friend from New York, who I think is in Pennsylvania. Yeah, so Kim is actually a member, while she lives far, far away, she's actually a member of PMI CLG. So thanks, Kim. Thanks for the question.
Okay, another question, and this is from Ed, and I'm probably not going to pronounce his name right.
Olzanowski. Yeah,
And
he's Olszanowski. Thanks, Ed. What does Ed say?
he says, I want to know if DA has tools to help get teams through the grooming process faster and efficiently.
I'm gonna guess that Ed is talking grooming of maybe safe stories. I don't know. There's all kinds of words for grooming. I'm gonna answer because I'm pretty confident that the answer is yes. And when we get down to the specific, you can ask another question, Ed, and I'll answer more specifically. So if you're talking safe and you're talking story writing and you're talking grooming of the business stories, the answer is yes. The nice thing about it is you don't have to use safe. If you write user stories or unified markup language or whatever you choose to use, DA has the capability to make it better, and I'll try to show you how. So yeah, thank you for that. Another one of my friends. My friends are giving me a hell here, but I am thankful for every one of them, and thanks for taking time out.
Okay, that's it for now.
Super. Let's talk about the DA toolkit and why I believe it truly is the secret sauce and why PMI bought it and is promoting it over anything else they're doing right now. They are spending more resources and time on DA than anything else that I can see inside of the organization. So hopefully you're on the forefront of this wave, and that's where you want to be. You want to be on the bleeding edge, but we've got enough history behind us that we can be on the second wave, and it's always good to be early and not Johnny come lately, as they call them. So here we go. All right, the DA toolkit. Here's you're going to get this picture. You're never going to remember this, but it's daunting. It has 4 components. The foundation, which is the bottom. You're going to see principles, promises, guidelines, agile, lean, serial. Serial is another word for traditional or predictive project management. You're going to see roles, teams, and the way of working. I'm going to cover all of that in the next 40 minutes at 1 layer deep. I'm going to introduce everything to you, but I want you to first of all see that disciplined agile enterprise there on the left encompasses all of those foundations. On top of that, you'll see something called the value stream and disciplined DevOps. I told you about DevOps. When I first met Scott, he was doing disciplined agile delivery, and there's a book you can get. I bought it in 2010, Disciplined Agile Delivery. But that only focuses on IT teams, and that was the problem. You can only go so far in deploying agile because all of those other colored boxes, those hexagons, septagons, are an impediment to your ability to really deliver quickly. So DevOps includes security, data management, release management, support, and that varies by company, and then IT operations. When investments are done, they hand it over to an operations group generally for the care and feeding for the remainder of the life cycle. So that's DevOps, okay? Above that lives in some organizations, the larger ones especially, portfolio, product, and program management. Above them lives support organizations like research and development, business operations, strategy, governance, and that's all kinds of governance. Depending on your industry, you might have regulatory governance, you might have external governance, you might have policy governance, you might have consumer governance. So governance is a really big catch-holder for that concept. Marketing includes all kinds of things, branding, communication. Then you have something called continuous improvement. That's something that's a real big buzzword, often included in research and development. Sometimes it's continuous improvement, but that's asking everyone in the business, sometimes known as innovation, to improve whatever they're responsible for. Everybody's probably, those are buzzwords right now. So think of continuous improvement as innovation. And then sales. If you are, whether you're doing internal sales to internal customers, whatever product you're producing, you're selling it to someone, or that's traditional external sales. And then above that, at the organizational highest level, you've got enterprise architecture, people who manage and give governance around enterprise architecture, both business and IT, and every other architecture you can think of, and there's a bunch. There's people management, and that includes, acquiring people, retaining people, developing people. People management's a big, big, big placeholder. Information technology, that's your IT group. Asset management, that's usually your finance people, somewhere in like managing whatever assets you own. Then you've got transformation. This is for people who are trying to do some form of transformation. And every company I know of does some form of transformation at some level of that organization. And then you have traditional finance, the bean counters, the people who are looking at budgets and things like that. And then vendor management. You outsource, if you outsource anything, and you should, those things that other people have core competencies on, you have vendor management. And then you have legal, our friends in legal. And I always like to joke with my friends who are lawyers, and one of them is my nephew, who is the Assistant Attorney General for the state of Texas. I always tell him, you know what you have if you have 2 lawyers, you have 7 opinions, because they will change on you day to day. All right. So I've kind of given you an overview, and this picture, when people say, why is transformation so hard? That's why. You can't change all of that at the same time. So DA gives you a toolkit to figure out, what do we want to attack first? And so we're going to go through these. Let me stop there, because I believe my next one, let me look. I believe we're going to go into the next one, but let me ask questions. Questions there, Frank?
Okay, let me take a look.
Yeah, I'm going to bring that slide up, because next we're going on to the mindset.
Okay, couple of things. Kevin, you talk about the test required for PMI Agile instructors. Is that the recertification? That's from Kathy Rogers.
No, we'll talk about that in a minute. I don't remember talking about the test for instructors, but there are levels in DA that are being configured right now. When we get to the certification, I have a slide for that, Kathy. And if I didn't answer your question, just clarify the question for me.
Okay, Paul Skinner says he has an odd question.
Oh, I like those.
Where does UX, user experience, fall in this model?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I'm a UX guy now, Paul. That would be, if I look across there as a UX, and I'm a senior experience owner, I'm going to tell you that I see UX in multiple areas. When we get there, I'll talk to you. It's certainly down in governance. It's there in brand, so it's there in marketing. It is there in business operations. It is there in strategy. It is there in continuous improvement. It's there in innovation. It's there in information technology, because oftentimes when you try to improve an experience, you often have to include that. So I'm going to tell you, user experience, and for those of you that don't know, that's the experience the end user gets when you put all of those things together. And the question is, how well did you manage the user experience? And it's a daunting job, believe me. Great question. Thank you for that question.
Okay, time to move on.
All right. Now I'm going to start changing. I'm going to go for that, but believe me, we're going to bring that bottom foundation layer back in, and I'm going to decompose it in roughly the next 30 minutes. We're doing great. We're almost halfway through this presentation. All right. You always hear about the Agile mindset. Anybody who's been around Agile, you have to change the way you think. And I told you that I teach both Agile and I teach project management, predictive traditional project management, to prepare people for the PMP at the University of Texas at San Antonio. When I teach those 2 classes back to back with about 30 minutes in between, 45 actually, I literally have to change the way I think so that I think in a different way when I go to teach the Agile class, so that I don't screw them up. Because if I use the traditional mindset, I will make mistakes as I'm deploying the Agile mindset. So I won't tell you it's easy, but I'm going to tell you that You can learn it, and it's like speaking 2 languages. You can speak 2 languages. Most people don't. I am absolutely like amazed at people who speak 6 or 7 languages. I mean, I've been accused of speaking foreign languages, but it's usually because of another reason. It has nothing to do with me knowing it. So let's go into the DA mindset. All right. So if you recall the foundations, I put it up there at the top. There is a mindset. The mindset includes the principles, the promises, and the guidelines. And I'm going to teach you each one of these sections. The practices include agile, lean, and serial, and you can combine all of them inside of an organization as each team decides how they want to work, and they have their own way of working. Discipline Agile allows that to integrate as it flows up, and I'll show you how. This is where Al Shalloway's flex system, as it's called, comes into play. And then the last one is the people, and that is role clarity. And you guys know as well as I do, if you change agile methodologies, you have to learn a whole new set of rules. At one time, and this is no joke, on one team, I was the project manager, the scrum master, the release train engineer, and the business product owner. One person, 4 different roles. What a nightmare. And I told him, this is a recipe for failure. Can't do this. But it's because people didn't know how to make the transformation, and they didn't know the roles that were different. And that's what I'm going to teach you a little bit about tonight. And then you have teams, and then you have their way of working. And that's what we call people. Now, underneath all of that is this concept of creating flow. And if anybody's been in the Toyota manufacturing or the Toyota production system, that was created based on flow, and that is remove impediments. And if you were to go to a production line, they have something where they can pull a chain, and inside of a particular area, they stop the entire assembly line. Can you imagine that? And it might be just in, let's say it's interior. I've been there 4 or 5 times, and I was watching them build a truck, and a dashboard was swinging in to this partially built truck, and the person looked at the dashboard, looked at the order on the hood, and knew that that dashboard was not the right one. Stopped the line, called over their vendor, who was right there in the building with them. They took off the dashboard, they put the new one on, and within about 40 seconds, started the line back up. That's how you create flow. And that's how they produce a truck every minute, 24/7 at that plant. I don't know if they're doing it now. They probably have a big inventory. But when I was there, they were knocking off trucks, and they were building quality in. They weren't inspecting it in at the end. Because by the time that dash went in and everything was connected and the glass went in, it had taken them 3 days to undo all the stuff and break all those components. But they fixed it right there. That's the value of the Toyota production system. And that's the concept of flow. Inside of flow, there's workflows and there's life cycles. And every team has to figure out which life cycle they might use. We're going to talk about that. And they can figure out what their workflow looks like and make sure that all work is visible in the workflow from start to finish. That's the secret. Most workflows have hidden work, and it's often the source of many pain points. All right. So here's the DA mindset in a different view. There are people, practices, and flow. Okay, the DA mindset has principles, promises, and guidelines down the bottom. Flow, again, has workflows and life cycles. People has roles and responsibilities and some form of a team structure. And then the practices are the goals. This is where goals come in. And you set out what your goals are. And we'll talk about how goals get set. And that's where Discipline Agile, using this mindset, allows you to incrementally address pain points and learn, and then put one pain point behind you and learn another one. And it's these goal diagrams that help you when you get the way of working book. There are guided questions to help you decide what should I work on next. And I'll expose you to a little bit of that tonight. All right. All right, I'm getting ready to go to the principles, so let me stop and say, Questions about the mindset?
Well, Kevin, there is a question. It's not about the mindset, but it might be related to it.
Okay.
The question comes from Brian Bice, who's asking, what is the toughest aspect of adopting DA for an enterprise?
It's always the same answer. It's people. People are set in their ways and they're comfortable, and they really, really, really have a difficult time learning to work a different way. The second thing I would tell you, if after people, is trust. Because without trust, you're never going to be successful with this kind of a model if people don't learn to trust each other. If there's hidden agendas, none of this is going to work. I can tell you dozens of stories where that was the root cause of a failure. Now, they blamed it on Agile, but it had nothing to do with the discipline. And I'm talking Scrum, Kanban, SAFe. People and trust are the root cause of most failures. Thank you for that question, Brian. These guys are making me work, I'm telling you. I don't know about inviting
Kevin,
your friends.
I'm going to make you work a little bit more.
Yeah.
Related to this question, I was going to save it till later, but now is a good time. And I think Kim was addressing this earlier. Okay, when we talk about the Agile Manifesto, there are two things. One says working software over comprehensive documentation.
Sure.
And another one is customer collaboration over contract negotiation.
Sure.
Now, when you are developing physical products, things, there is an awful lot of contractual discussion and principles and conditions, terms and conditions of contracts.
Yeah.
So how do you get someone who is focused on making sure that we have our contract defined properly and we're following the contract when Agile is focusing more on collaboration over a contract negotiation?
Yeah, I've answered this question a dozen times, so let me tell you. Remember, legal's always up in the top and vendor management's always up in the top. Agile does not mean that you don't do contracting and you don't use vendors, okay? What it means is you write contracts, but here's the secret to any contract, and I'm going to use something we all can, what's the right word, that we all can relate to. A marriage sometimes is a contract, right? We have to sign a document that says we want to get married. Now, if you go to court to manage your relationship, it's over, okay? That's what I'm pointing out is the manifesto says customer collaboration over contract negotiations. I'm just going to tell you that it cannot end with negotiations if you can't have a relationship. And so when I talked about the Toyota production system, they bring their vendors inside the walls to solve problems with them. You don't think Toyota has problems with vendors? They surely do. You don't think Walmart in their distribution centers with vendors doesn't have legal and contractual? They surely do. But they have both figured out how to work a relationship so it does not become, as the Agile Manifesto highlights, a contract issue. Because when you get lawyers talking, your project and your initiative is dead.
Well,
That's all I got to say
I
about
think
that.
that a few people might disagree with you on some of those things that you mentioned, but
Sure.
the key point is that Agile focuses on quite a bit of collaboration and responding to change.
True.
The traditional form of project management focuses more heavily on documenting and managing change. And I think that the collaboration is to focus on how to do that better so that both sides actually get what they're looking for.
Yeah, and I want to address another myth that's buried in that. You know, the manifesto says working software over comprehensive documentation. It does not say that Agile is against documentation. If that is a requirement of the customer, you absolutely need to produce documentation. What that was addressing was a bunch of software people who basically said, we've had projects canceled. Now, these were 11 people who got together and said, what are some common things? If you do nothing but document for months and months and months, sometimes the money runs out and the customer gets a big book of stuff and nothing of value other than a book to read. That's what that was addressing. So I can tell you, I've done more planning in Agile than I ever did in predictive project management. That's another fallacy. And I also do more documentation using tools to do it, not Word documents and requirement spreadsheets and things like that. So there is ways to do it. So yeah, I appreciate a different perspective. Happy to hear those and have a debate and you know, listen to the other side. There's always experiences, and I learn every time.
Okay,
Okay.
let's continue to move on.
All right. Let me fix my battery problem here. I don't know if you see it, but my battery says you're out of battery. And I'm like, ha ha, I have not even begun to fight. So let me fix that and we will move along. All right. Let's proceed. Now we're going to talk about the 8, not 12, 8 discipline agile principles. And this is where I believe people are going to have trouble when they go to take a PMP or a PMI exam, and it has 50% agile and DEA is in there. Yeah, the question is going to be, which one of them damn principles are you testing me on? The 12 from the Agile Manifesto or the 8 from the Discipline Agile? Let's see how it happens. So here we go. Here are the 8 principles. You can read them on the left in order, or you can look at the nice colored pictures, whichever one you're attracted to. I tried to meet both audiences. Delight customers. That's not too scary. It's basically make the people that you work for happy. Be awesome. How are you be awesome? I can tell you what we learned and we can talk about it. It's in the Discipline Agile Wow book. It is doing great things every day, under promising and over delivering. Being pragmatic, and that is be realistic. Don't tell me you're going to transform a company, a Fortune 100 company in 9 months. You're not. And this toolkit helps you figure that out. Context counts, and that is whenever you make a statement, the context in which that statement is being made is often lost on the recipient unless they share the same context. And that's happening tonight already because people have a different context in their deployment of Agile or their understanding of principles. So you can see that DAs already realized that that is important, and having context and driving that out is important for your teams to overcome conflicts that are going to come. The next one is choice is good, and that is at every decision, you have the ability to make another decision based on what you learn. So once you start down a path, unlike some prescriptive methodologies, you don't have to stay with what you decided before. You can switch over and change the context and make a different choice. That's powerful. That's immensely powerful. The next one is optimize flow. We already talked enough about flow, and that is drive waste out of your processes, both your internal, your vendor processes, your legal processes, your marketing processes, your DevOps processes, all of those things that are in the Discipline Agile Enterprise. You have to drive flow into those areas. And you probably know as well as I do, if you go to a support group like legal or marketing, you don't have a large group of people waiting to help every project that's in flight. They are scarce. Designers, those kind of folks, pretty scarce, pretty expensive and pretty scarce. Enterprise awareness, that's making sure that if you're on a team, that you have full enterprise awareness of everything that you are a participant in. And oftentimes teams only see what they do. They have no idea. So think of the Toyota production system. The person that builds the frame better be aware of the variations in the trucks that they're building. And if it's not the same frame in every truck, and if you build 2 levels of truck like Toyota does, and you have the wrong frame, you made a mistake on the very first step, because that's the first thing that happens is the frame gets dropped in. So enterprise awareness from top to bottom, and everyone is aware of everyone else, and the contribution those other areas make so that they can have conversations about removing conflicts and impediments to increase flow. And then you should organize around your products and services. Oftentimes, because of the industrial age, we're organized around silo, like accounting and marketing, and products flow through each of those. The DA toolkit recommends that you organize around the products that you produce, and you bring all of those others to bear on producing it. So that's a different change, and that's a really important principle. And there, man, I could talk for literally 2 hours on just that one. And that's a key. If you don't do these 8 principles, you won't get as much out of the DA toolkit as you could. Not to say you can't start, and you don't have to do everything, but you got to start somewhere. All right, so here are the promises. Remember, this is all part of what we call the mindset. So the principles, there they are again. We believe in all of those. We also promise to create psychological safety and embrace diversity of thought that drives innovation. And it teaches teams to argue and to bring disparate perceptions to the conversation so that the team can then talk them out. And it gets nasty, and it gets like, some people don't like confrontation. Well, if you want to be the best, you have to do that. If you've ever been on a sports team, a competitive sports team, the best ones fight in the locker room. And I mean, argue about the plays that were run. At halftime on football teams, they talk about who was screwing up. And it's not because they're being critical. They're saying, if we're going to win, you got to do a better job. And this is growing thick skin on feedback. And if you suck, your teammates are given the opportunity to tell you that. Accelerate value realization. This goes back to the customer. Get them something they can value quickly. Al Shalloway, if you follow him on LinkedIn, talks about this concept of minimal viable product. And he's got another name for it, and it's actually better. So it's not an IT product with slices. It's something they can actually use and sell. So if you think about a pizza, if I couldn't create you a pizza, but I could give you some hot bread, maybe you could sell hot bread first. It's not pizza, which is where we're going. But if I gave you breadsticks, maybe we could start making money on breadsticks. That's my best analogy. Collaborate proactively. I've already talked about that. Make all work and workflow visible. That's the number one. If you look there, I want to highlight, you may not be able to see it, but I think, let me see, did I put, yeah, look there. On this one, I put arrows. If you don't pick anything, start with optimizing flow in the principles, start with make all work visible, and then start with the guidelines, create an effective environment that fosters joy. People should have fun because they're contributing to a valuable team. Those are 3, one principle, one promise, and one guideline. If you want to start DA, start there, and then pick up the others. All right, so I'll keep going. Improve predictability. One of the things about Agile that sometimes kills it is senior executives say, well, you know, when are you going to be done? And the answer is, I don't know. We'll let you know the day after we finish. Well, this gives you the ability to give some predictability because we can show you with some confidence what we're working on, why we're working on it, and allow them to help us make a change. Keep workloads within the capacity. That is, don't overwork your system. Another mistake that I've seen made with Scrum is they take people that were used to working in a slower paced predictive delivery model. They turn up the volume, and that's called volatility in Agile, and they expect them to do it 24/7 or 5 days a week without a break for a whole year. That's not sustainable, and we can talk about how to do that. And then improve continuously. Back to that, you know, we're not as good today as we will be tomorrow, but we're better than we were yesterday, and that literally should be the mantra of every person and every team. All right.
Kevin.
I'm going to let you read the rest of these because these are guidelines. Again, design thinking, validate your learning. It's not about feelings. It's about what did you learn. Create a culture system. create semi-autonomous self-organizing teams. That's a real key, and people misinterpret what that means. That doesn't mean they get to do whatever the hell they want. That means they get to do what they get to define the how they're going to do it, not the what they're going to do. And then the last one is leverage and enhance organizational assets. And that is, if you have a team that's learning something, teach it to another team. That's the concept around those guidelines. All right. May have to pick up the pace here, but I bet you're saying.
Kevin, before you move forward.
Oh, yeah.
A couple of questions I think that you need to address.
Okay.
The question comes from Matt Lassiter.
I know, Matt.
When DA says organize around products and services, is it talking about real organizational structure or a virtual org like SAFE talks about arts?
It's around arts. You got it right. It's the latter. They're not talking about organized. I suppose if you take this and you get a team where you can actually get the entire organization, you might be able to do something organizationally. But they truly are at this point talking about agile release trains and teams focused on a particular product. You're right, Matt. Thanks for that question, buddy.
Okay, and here's something else. I actually asked a question of the audience and I got 2 responses, and it gets back to the principles. And the second principle is be awesome. So I'm going to ask you to answer this after I read these 2 responses.
Okay.
Ed Olzanowski says be proactive, always follow the ball, and don't let anyone drop it. And Erica Bruno says volunteer for the tasks that no one else wants to do but still need to be done. Those were 2 responses to awesome.
That's all awesomeness.
What would
give me a second. I've got some reference material. Let me see if I can find the answer to that on exactly how to be awesome. If you get the working way of working book at the end, I know it's in there because I've read it. All right. In the end of the time, let me move on, but I know you're feeling this right now. Oh, Lord, please make it go away. Unfortunately, it's not going to if you're going to remain a competitive player in this space. So let's press on and let me encourage you, okay? I promise to help you.
Kevin, adjust your Kevin.
Some really smart people who I consider my friends and professional colleagues. They're challenging me to answer some questions. So I always call that stump the chump. So thanks to all of you for making me work for you. All right, let's talk about the life cycle. I've got 7:35. I got about 10 more minutes, and then I still have time for questions.
Kevin, hold on one second.
Kevin. The middle area. So in Agile, you have exploratory, continuous Agile, and then continuous delivery of Agile. Those are maturing. Okay.
Kevin.
And under Agile, you can pick all kinds of Agile frameworks.
Kevin.
Again,
take your mask off.
Under Lean has exploratory, and that is we don't know what to use, but we think we want to explore. There's a methodology, a life cycle that will help you answer some questions. I think I may have time to show you an example. Then there's Lean, around creating flow, and then there's continuous delivery Lean. Sometimes there's also something called less. So there's several different hybrids. But again, it gives you the opportunity in the Lean space to create flow. And then in Serial, yes, there is still traditional project management. DA supports it. There's exploratory, and there is program level management. And that's complexity. For those of you that are program and portfolio oriented, my PMPs will know exactly what I'm talking about. DA helps that as well. Okay, so we don't have much time to do that, but let me move on. So now I'm going to talk about the way of working, and we're doing great. I only have 60 more slides and 12 minutes to do it. I'm just kidding. Okay, any more questions, Frank?
Yeah, your sound went really bad. I couldn't get your attention, but either you moved away from your mic or you made an adjustment, but your sound went bad.
Anybody? You still there? Oh no.
Hi, Kevin. Apparently, we have an audio issue with you. Hang on as we try to correct the audio issue with Kevin. Just bear with us on this. In the meantime, hopefully you're enjoying the information and all the questions. Thank you very much. Apparently, we've lost some audio with Kevin, and we're trying to correct that. So just hang on. It might have something to do with the battery issue that he had, but just bear with us for a minute while we see if we can correct that.
Can hear me fine. Okay. If you guys can hear me fine, I'm going to continue on then.
Okay, go ahead and move on.
Okay, I hear you now. Great. I don't know what happened, but here we are back. All right, this is the way of working. As a member of PMI, they have made available to you this book for $19.95. If you go to Amazon, you can buy it, and you can have a physical copy. It's 445 pages. Yes, I had to read them all. It's 2.3 pounds, but if you are a member, you can go to that link at the bottom. It's not exposed if you go to the website, but I, as a DA champion, have access to things that others don't. And you can download that book for free. I don't know when that might stop, so do it sooner than later. There are 27 chapters. I just gave you a peek into section 1. I believe that's the first 5 chapters. I know it's 100 pages. Section 2 is how to work with your teams. Section 3 is producing business value. Section 4 is releasing into production and how to make that efficient. And then section 5 is how to sustain and enhance your team for the rest of your life. It's an excellent book. It's well written. I highly recommend it to you. There are also, if you go to the PMI bookstore, or if you go on to Amazon, there are about 5 other books. There's DA for Executives. There's just a number of books, but I would tell you start with WOW, and it will answer most of the questions you have right now. Okay, let me see. Come on, baby. Talk to me. One more slide. There we go. So let's talk certifications. Here we are. On the certifications, you can start out as a discipline agilist, and that is you show interest in the discipline strategies and you're eager to learn more. And with a pretty simple quiz, you can be a DA. You can go to the website. PMI has that up now. You get a certification and you can be a DA. Then if you want to be a certified discipline agilist, which means that you have the knowledge and you understand the strategies, you're going to take a test to learn more. I took both of those tests in December and January, and then I took the CDAP. You can see the arrows. I chose to go down the practitioner, not the Scrum Master, just because it worked for me. But they are at the same level, and they are, one is a Discipline Agile practitioner, and the other one is a Scrum Master. If you're deep into Scrum, I would recommend you go down the Scrum Master. The bottom 2 are the coach, which you can, again, go to from either of those green level, or the instructor. There are 2 different tests for that. Both of them, the instructor requires confirmation from colleagues who are certified discipline agilists, and you have to have a resume that they will then look at after you take the CDAC exam. So PMI right now is suspended that, and they will bring it back once they figure out exactly how they're going to move forward with that, because it's now fully transitioned out of the DA consortium. Those websites are starting to be decommissioned, and it's all getting onto PMI now. All right, so my job, as I told you before, was to inform, inspire, and encourage you. I hope I've done some of that. At 4:42 by my clock, we're right on time because we have another poll question. Frank, can you do that one for me? And thanks for sticking around. I have a few more slides for you, but I need to know how I did so that I can answer some more questions. Oh, Lord, I hope that you're still there. There we
Okay,
go.
yeah.
Got
That's
it.
your second question.
Okay. So I really hope I help those DA people who knew some of this stuff. I hope I helped them. I know that John was one of those because he's one of my DA partners.
Okay, right now preliminary results are 25% say no, I need to get more info on the DA.
Okay.
39% say yes, but I want more details.
Sure.
29% say yes, I'm ready to get more formal DA training.
Awesome.
And 7% say I'm ready to go and begin the certification process.
Rock and roll.
So
That's
I'm going to
good.
let that run for about 10 more seconds, and I will publish the info so you can see that, and we can talk about that.
Okay. That's great. That's where I hoped you'd be if I did my job well.
Here's the results.
Okay. Super. Yeah. So I think I still have work to do. Clearly, I'm glad more people didn't know much about Agile. I hope I've opened your eyes. If you want to learn more, this is a link to Gartner, what they had to say in 2017. There's a great article by Cutter, which is a business journal. You can read that on your own. I've also included 7 facts about Rodin's thinker and also about the gates of hell. I think changing your perspective and looking outside of the topic and how Rodin in 1880 used Agile, although he didn't know he was doing it. I think it's really important to look back and see people have been doing this forever. It's just we try to formalize it and make it scary and give it crazy names, and people run from us because we're doing it. I've done Agile transformations when people didn't even know they were doing Agile because I never told them. I just said, let's do something different. PMI's DA homepage is there. You can click that and go directly to where all these new resources are being curated. And then a really important one, there's a DAD homepage for those of you that like to watch YouTube. They have a YouTube channel. If you subscribe to it, they continue to evolve it. You can go learn more about DAD, which is the Discipline Agile Delivery, and you can learn more about DA right there. And then you can use me as your DA champion. And in summary, at 7:45, we landed that plane. The DA is a toolkit to serve your long-term success. I would encourage you to take time to determine why you might engage and how your industry, your job, your career might benefit from it. Join the DA conversations on LinkedIn and YouTube. There is a growing practice globally, and there are some really smart people doing some really cool things. And use technology virtual, like we're doing tonight, to reach a wider group of people. Embrace that mindset and practice it. That's what that means, is get into that mindset and practice to change the way you look and think about things. And then consider your next step on your Agile DA journey. And then, as we were talking about, find a way to be awesome. That's probably my next blog. I probably should blog how to be awesome. I'm going to do it. Look for it.
Kevin, would you mind going back about 3 or 4 slides?
Yeah.
While you were speaking, the poll was still up, so you may want to just kind of go back and do a quick refresh on go back 3 or 4 slides right after that one.
Yeah. So there's the references, right? We did the poll here. Whoops. We did the poll here. The next one was all the references, and you guys can get these. Those are links when you get the PDF. You can get it out of the PDF. And then I talked about the summary, okay? So it's a toolkit. It's basically your long-term success, both in your career and your company. No matter what industry you're in, I believe that DA can make you more successful. And I'm here to be a resource for you to make it true. Find out why you should do DA, and I want to encourage you to start today. No matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, see if DA can't make it better. And if it doesn't, give me feedback, because that's how we all learn. Join the conversations on LinkedIn and YouTube. Embrace that mindset and start practicing it. Remember, the mindset has 3 components to it: the principles, the practices, and the promises. And then figure out what's your journey. How do you get started? And then collaborate with me. And then I'll find a way to be awesome. And I want to be awesome with you. And I want you to be awesome for whoever you serve. So it's time for your questions. 2 minutes over what I promised to land it on, but now it's wide open, wild west. Stump the chump is what I call it. Let me hear it.
Hi, Kevin, this is a question, I think it's more for the chapter, but the question is, so today's PDU is a 1 hour technical credit?
It's a great question. I don't know. I'm going to leave that up to the professional development guys on the chapter.
Okay, so we'll need to get the chapter to advise if this is a technical PDU.
Yeah, we're going to send out a survey, Frank. So everybody who's here is going to get a survey. And in that survey, we can answer these questions, okay?
Okay, you might want to put those links up again. Some people are looking for those links that you had on near the end of the slides.
Sure. Those are just names. The links, the actual link is behind them. So when you get the PDF, but you can Google it. You can look up Gartner Assessment. You can look up Cutter, Volume 31. You can Google facts about Redding's Thinker. You can figure out the story. You can Google everything that's on that page. But when you get it, you're going to get the links because I buried them in there.
Okay, we got a statement from John Leonard. He says from 1790, Alexander Hamilton's U.S. Coast Guard was agile before agile was cool for maritime defense, safety, security, mobility, and environmental protection.
He absolutely is right. And John and I had that discussion. So John took us back. And if you know Hamilton in the play, there's a song by the King called You'll Be Back. And if I could play it, I'd play it for you now. But John is a Navy guy, and he can see the practices that we're doing all the way back to his history. And I was having a conversation the other day with another Agilist, and I said, I believe we can trace it back to the pyramids. That's a really long time ago because people worked together. And I was making a joke, so I'll share it with you. I basically said, here's a quote from the architect of the pyramids to the team. Today's resource meeting has been moved to a single day due to time constraints. That's a joke because back then resources was one of the most readily available resources. They made slaves out of people and made them build the pyramids. So I don't think they had too many resource conversations.
Let me get a few more questions in, Kevin.
Come on.
Okay, Pete Hottenstein says, how do you introduce Agile to an organization that can't follow waterfall?
Oh, Pete, you made me laugh, brother. Well, I'll pray for you first of all. And here's how it starts, Pete. You know me, you've heard me say this before. Are you satisfied? Do you get the results? Do your projects end on time, cost what you expected, and deliver the quality? And I can tell you that everybody you ask that question answers no. I don't care what they're doing. If you're cooking dinner, I promise you, most people say no to one of those questions. Dinner's late, it costs more than I thought, and it's less quality. So take something as simple as that. It's people and trust. Pete, talk to me offline. We'll get down to the nitty gritty and I'll give you something to try. You know, you got to be a courageous leader and you gotta gain their respect and I always told them, let me hang myself. If I'm wrong, you can fire me. And I could say that because I knew I wasn't wrong. And I knew I could incrementally change their mindset with a whole series of successes.
You got a different question, Kevin. This is from Russ Schoenke.
Oh my gosh, Russ, yes.
The question is, if you could name 3 unique things that DA brings to the world of work, what would they be?
Basically the toolkit, okay, because it is very flexible. You can use it. Here's what I liked, and it's principle number 11 back on that slide with DA. One of the things I've always, and you know I've talked to you about this, it always bothered me with purists, and I don't care which agile framework they were selling. The rest, whatever you were doing was crap, and you had to do what they were promoting with precision, or you would be a failure. I think that's crap. I always thought that it was so strange that people who ask for agility told me how it was going to work. That was ludicrous to me. And so Russ, that's one. One is it's a toolkit that gives you a guided continuous, and you and I can talk offline. I'll give you the exact things that I believe make it unique. That's one of them. The second thing is it interfaces with all the other frameworks, so it's not prescriptive. You can use Scrum, you can use SAFe, you can use Kanban, you can use LESS, you can use Lean. Whatever you think you need to use at the lower level, down with that delivery team, no problem. No problem at all. That makes it unique. There is no other framework that says we respect the other frameworks and we integrate with them. There's not one other that I'm aware of, because they all basically say, if you're doing Scrum, you suck, and so do the people who built Scrum. You should be doing fill in the blank. And you and I both know we've heard those comments from customers, and we've heard those comments from coaches. And this is what DA does differently. And then the last one is probably the support of an organization with the power of PMI behind it. I believe DA is going to take off and be global, and that's only going to be true if it truly takes off, and it does what I think. And that's a forecast. So that's a promise, not a it's already there. But I can tell you the people that are starting to do it, and I know John's on here. The people that are DA champions are in that role because they believe that this could be a really good experience for a lot of different people. Thanks for asking that, Russ. It's good to hear from you, man, and thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, we've got a comment from Wanda Petty. She says, yes, as a military veteran, and Wanda, thank you for your service, all of these practices are familiar.
Yeah. You know, I tell people all the time, Agile was not created in 2001. They signed the manifesto because there were a bunch of starving software developers trying to find a way to codify what they were all experiencing, and they got it started. You know, there's a movement right now to change those 12 principles based on the change in 20 years. It's no longer applicable like it was 20 years ago. Remember that VUCA world we talked about? Yeah, they're living with it too.
Okay, there are no other questions that are coming up here. I'm just going to scan back and see if we missed anything.
Sure.
Someone said when your battery went low, they thought it was their battery.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Oh my gosh.
Kathy Rogers said, I wonder whether the old credentials or the new ones will have an asterisk to distinguish.
Yeah, I asked that same question because when this implements, I asked PMI that question last October. Their answer was, that's a great question. When I see a PMP as a consumer of people who hires PMPs, and I see PMP, I don't know if it's a new one or an old one. And I need to know that. So I'll have to ask that in interviews starting in January. If I don't see a CDAP behind it, which means they're doing DA, I'll have to ask the PMP, how much Agile do you have? And which flavors of it? Yeah, that's a problem in the consumer market. Yeah. Hey, I'm getting comments from all my family and friends. Yeah, Tina, you're right. There's tons of lawsuits between all of these practitioners. Ain't that fun? That's collaboration, isn't it? If I can't work with you, I'll just sue you.
Okay, Matt Lassiter has his hands up. I'm actually going to open up, if Matt, if you'd like to, I'm going to open up your microphone. You can ask the question directly to Kevin.
Okay.
Go ahead, Matt.
No, actually that was before I understood the decorum here. I posted the question in chat. Didn't know if I needed to raise my hand to do that. So he answered it earlier.
Okay.
All right.
Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, this is good, Kevin.
Thank you, brother.
All right, I think there might be one more question here before we start to wrap up. Pete Hottenstein is asking about, what about ACP?
Yeah, I asked that same question in October. I basically said, hey, you guys have the ACP. With all these certifications, where does my ACP go? Let me tell you what it does. If you are a PMI ACP, you don't have to qualify in order to take the DA or the CDA. You don't have to prove agile experience. You can take those. So that's one bridge. What I asked PMI was, if I was a brand new person and I didn't have any exposure to anything PMI did, and I saw a PMI ACP and a CDAP, a Discipline Agile series, how do I know which one to go down? They haven't answered that question for me. But here's what I know, having both of them now. The PMI ACP is a great starter. PMI brought that out in November of 2011. That's when I got certified as one of the first 500 in the world, part of the pilot group. It's a great primer because they teach you agile principles. They certainly teach you the manifesto. They teach you the 12 principles, and then they quickly launch into Scrum, Lean, Kanban, something called Crystal, who's promoted in England. It's overseas more than here, and that's promoted by Alistair Coburn. You can look up Crystal. I've never found anyone using it personally, except for in Europe. It goes with colors. It's just a different way of doing it. But Alistair Coburn was part of the mindset. So,
one more question, Kevin.
Tina says we're doing it. Thanks, Tina. See, we're learning from each other. But anyway, yeah, it's a good question. Keep pressing PMI to answer that question and to alleviate the ambiguity in this VUCA world that they're creating by having multiple certifications.
Okay, one last question, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
What is a company's first step into adopting DA or Agile overall? And that's from Dylan Mann.
Dylan, hey Dylan, that's my Tampa, that's my St. Petersburg. Thanks for asking the question, man. I don't know. I'll tell you what it is. First of all, they have to realize they have a problem. Because if you don't have a problem, you're just another consultant with a toolkit to sell. So the first thing is they got to realize they have a problem. Projects cost too much, take too long, and deliver less quality. And the answer is, hey, would you like to hear about another alternative that we could start? And the nice thing about DA is you can start really small, really, really small, and you can grow it over however long you are willing to continue to invest in continuous improvement. And that goes back to, how much is a company willing to invest in their people and their processes to beat their competition next year? Because if you're not doing it and your competition starts doing it, you are at a lower probability of long-term survival. And I want to go back to my opening comments around March. There were companies who basically said, yeah, we're not doing anything digital. We kind of like to, see the people that we interact with. We want to do it locally. This is the risk. That's what happens. Nobody predicted that you wouldn't be able to do that anymore. And those people no longer exist. This meeting right here used to be only at a restaurant, and I've been there twice to speak for them, but it was all face-to-face. We can't do it anymore, but we pivoted, and it took us a little while, and it wasn't easy, but here we are. And you are the benefactors all over the world of our persistent to deploy the same principles that I'm promoting tonight. So it is possible, and you are the recipient tonight of that hard work.
Okay, well, that brings us to the close of this session. So Kevin, thanks for the information that you have shared. I will turn this back over to Julian for any last comments before we close out. And by the way, since the session did run from 6:30 until 8, that might qualify for 1.5 PDUs when you look into the type of PDU that you were going to be offering, but 1.5 PDU sounds right for a 6:30 to 8 o'clock presentation, something to consider.
I
So,
concur. Thanks, Frank.
okay, so anyway, Julian, if you would like to, or AJ, AJ has dropped off. Julian, any final words as we close out? You're open.
Thanks, Frank. Yes, thanks everyone for coming tonight, listening to Kevin Martin's excellent presentation on discipline agile. Hope y'all got a lot out of it. Our next meeting will be August 27th, so look for that flyer. And like I said earlier, we are planning on having workshops, and we'll probably engage Kevin and Frank on some of those workshops. Thank you very much, and have a good evening, and be safe out there.
Okay. Anyway, the slide presentation should be available through the chapter website. Is that correct, Kevin?
Yeah, we'll put it on the website.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. Yeah, Daniel already has it. They can put it up. It might take a couple of days, but give the chapter a couple of days and then it should be there. And if
Okay,
you're not a member, join the chapter and you'll get notified.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We're going to close out. There were a total of 56 attendees. Unofficially, we'll double check on that. I'll send the information out. People will get information about PDUs, and we thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks, you guys. You're really, really awesome. Very much appreciate this.
Yeah, you're welcome. Who was that?
That was Scott.
Oh, hey, Scott.
Scott.
Thanks, partner.
So there was one other question about whether or not the meeting was recorded, and then if it was, how do we get access to that?
Okay, the recording takes about 24 hours to process, and then there will be a YouTube link made available. I'll send it to the chapter, and then you can post that.
Phenomenal. That's great.
Yeah, and let me tell you, the people, there were a lot of people, and I'm talking about Slovenia, Australia, that I'm connected with that said, hey, if this is recorded, I really do want to hear you talk. So you guys have the potential. They registered, but they didn't attend. You might think about, making this available, and it's okay with me. But you might reach some people and get some membership literally from around the world.
That's amazing.
Okay, there is a comment, and I like a comment from Kathy Rogers, who said, I like this. It says, I like this low-cal way of meeting. So I guess that's because there's no meal involved.
Yeah, that's right.
No
Okay,
fajita
so
buffet.
There's always a silver lining if you look for it, right?
that's right.
Hey, Frank, let me just say thank you so much. I couldn't have done it without you. Man, like I said, I don't know what I can improve, but I bet there's something. I think there's something we can improve on, and I'm ready for all the feedback. I told my partners to really challenge me tonight and ask me tough questions, so they did their part, because it does help everybody because we're all coming from different places. But I can't thank you and the board enough for